Chapter 2, Part D of Greener Than You Think. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Greener Than You Think by Ward Moore. Chapter 2, Part D. However, it was not moonlight illuminating the weird tumulus, but the glare of a battery of searchlights, suggesting, as Goots irreverently remarked, the opening of a new supermarket. During my absence, the National Guard had arrived and focused the great incandescent beams on the mound, which now covered 5 houses, and whose threat had driven the inhabitants from as many more. The powdery blue lights gave the grass an uncanny yellowish look, as though it had been stricken by a disease. The rays, directed low, were constantly being interrupted by the bodies of the militiamen hurrying back and forth to accomplish some definite task. "What goes on?" inquired Goots. The officer addressed had 2 gleaming silver bars on his shoulder. He seemed very young and nervous. "Sorry, no one allowed this far without special authorization." "Working press." Goots produced a reporter's badge from the captain's bars. "Oh, excuse me. Say, that was a sharp little stump, Mr. Name of Jackson Goots, Intelligencer. Captain Eltwis. How did you learn stuff like that?" I looked at him, for the name was somehow vaguely familiar, but to the best of my knowledge I had never seen that smooth, boyish face before. "Talent, natural talent. What did you say all the shooting was about?" "Getting ready to tunnel under," answered the officer affably. "Blow the thing sky high from the middle, and get rid of it right now. Not going to let any grass grow under our feet." "But I read an article saying neither dynamite, TNT, nor nitroglycerin would be effective against the grass. Might even do more harm than good." "Writers." Captain Eltwis dismissed literature without even resorting to an exclamation point. "Writers." To underline his confidence, the bone-shaking chatter of pneumatic chisels began a syncopated rattle. Military directness would accomplish in one swift, decisive stroke at the heart of things what civilian fumbling around the edges had failed to do. I looked with almost sentimental regret at the great conical heap. I had brought it into being. In a few hours it would be gone, and whatever fame its brief existence had given me would be gone with it. With swift method, the guardsmen started burrowing. In ordered relays, fresh workers replaced tired, and the pile of excavated dirt grew. Since their activity, except for its urgency and the strangeness of the situation, didn't differ from labors observable any time a street was repaired or a foundation laid, I saw no point in watching hour after hour. I thought Goots' persistence less a devotion to duty than the idle curiosity which makes grown men gape at a steam shovel. My hints being lost on him, I ascertained the hour they expected to be finished and went home. Excitement or no excitement, I saw no reason to abandon all routine. My forethought was proven when I returned refreshed in mid-morning as the last shovelfuls of dirt came from the tunnel and the explosive charges were hurried to their place. There was reason for haste. While the tunneling had been going on, all the grass-fighting activity had ceased, for the militia had ordered weed-burners, reapers, bulldozers, and the rest off the scene. The weed, unhampered for the first time since Mrs. Dinkman attacked it with her lawnmower, responded by growing and growing, until more and more guardsmen had to be detached to the duty of keeping it back from the excavation by the very means they had scorned so recently. Even their most frantic efforts could not prevent the grass from sending its most advanced tendrils down into the gaping hole where the wires were being laid to detonate the charge. There was so much dashing to and fro, so many orders relayed, so many dispatches delivered, that I thought I might have been witnessing an out-of-date Civil War play instead of a peacetime action of the California National Guard. Captain Eltwis, I kept wondering where I'd heard the name, was constantly being interrupted in what was apparently a very friendly conversation with Goots by the arrival of official-looking envelopes, which he immediately stuffed into his pocket with every indication of vexation. "Silly old fools," he muttered, each time the incident happened. Quick inspections made, plans checked, an order was rasped to clear the vicinity. Goots' agonized protests that he had to report the occasion for the Intelligencer's readers was ignored. "Can't start making exceptions," explained Captain Eltwis. Everyone, working press, militia, sightseers, and all, had to move back a couple of blocks, where intervening trees and houses cut us off from any view of the green hill. "This is terrible!" exclaimed Goots frantically. "Tragic! How'll I live it down? How am I gonna face W.R.? Godlike wrath. What pool hall were you dozing in, Goots? Asleep on your bloody feet, eh? Somnambulistic offspring of a three-toed sloth? Wait all night for a story and then not get it like a star legman on the Jackson Junior High School jive jitterbug. I'll never be able to hold my head up again. Say something, Wiener. I've got to get this." "We'll be able to hear the explosion from here," I remarked to console him, for his distress was genuine. "Oh," he groaned, "hear the explosion. Albert, Albert, you have a fertile mind. Why didn't I hide myself before they told us to clear out? Why didn't I get W.R. to hire a plane? Why didn't I foresee this and do any of 100 things? A microphone and automatic movie camera. Goonie Goots, they called him, the man who missed all bets. A captive balloon now. Hey, what about a roof?" "Trees," I objected, with a mental picture of him bursting into the nearest house and demanding entrance to the roof. "Bourgeois, there's no tree in the way of the old box over there. Allons!" It wasn't till he had urged me inside and up a flight of stairs that I realized the box was Miss Frances's apartment house. It had been a logical choice, since its height and ugliness distinguished it even from its unhandsome neighbors. Less than a week had gone by since I had come here for the first time. As I followed Goots' grasshopper leaps upward at a more dignified pace, I reflected how strangely my circumstances had changed. The shoddily carpeted halls were musty and still as we climbed, except for the unheeding squeak of a radio someone had forgotten to turn off. You could always tell when a radio was being listened to, for when disregarded, it sulkily gave off painfully listless noises in frustration and loneliness. I wasn't at all surprised to find Miss Frances among the spectators crowded on the roof in evidence of having no more important occupation. "I somehow expected you. Have you any new tricks?" she asked Goots coaxingly. "Ecod, your worship, what time have I for legerdemain? With your help now, I'd be a fine gentleman journalist, instead of an overworked hack." "Ha!" she said genially, busy with the toothpick. "You'll find enough respectable laboratory mechanics eager to cooperate. How long will it be before they shoot, do you know?" Gooch shook his head, and I strained my eyes toward the grass. Symmetrical and shimmeringly green, removed as it now was from all connotations of danger by distance and the promise of immediate destruction, it showed serenely beautiful and unaffected by the machinations of its attackers. I could almost have wept as I traced its sloping sides upward to the rounded peak on top. Reversing all previous impressions, it now appeared to be the natural inhabitant, and all the houses, roadways, pavements, fences, automobiles, light poles, and the rest of the evidences of civilization the intruders. But even as I looked at it so eagerly, it moved and wavered, and I heard the muffled boom of explosion. The roof trembled and windows rattled with diminishing echoes. The noise was neither a great nor terrifying one, and I distinctly remember thinking it quite inadequate to the occasion. I believe all of us there, when we heard the report, expected to see a vast hole where the grass had been. I'm sure I did. When it was clear this hadn't happened, I continued to stare hard, thinking, since my high school physics was so hazy, I had somehow reversed the relative speed of sight and sound, and we had heard the noise before seeing the destruction. But the green bulk was still there. Oh, not unchanged by any means. The smooth picture-book slope had become jagged and bruised, while the regular, evenly rounded apex had turned into a sort of Phrygian cap, with its pinnacle woundedly askew. The outlines, which had been sharp, were now blurred. Its evenness had become scraggly. The placid surface was vexed. The attempt on its being had hurt. But not mortally, for even with outline altered, it remained.